My fiancée asked for a break to explore her ex 3 months before our wedding. I ended everything and disappeared completely, so I just lived through what I'm pretty sure was the fastest relationship implosion in Florida history. And honestly, I'm still processing how someone can be planning a wedding with you one day and asking to be with their ex the next. I'm Nash, 31, software sales director in Tampa, was engaged to Raven for 6 months, together for 3 years total. Everything felt solid. We had this house we'd bought together 2 years ago, wedding planned for next spring. The whole future mapped out. She's a graphic designer, funny as hell. And up until 2 weeks ago, I thought I'd hit the relationship jackpot. We met at this networking event downtown. She was there promoting her freelance design work. I was there because my company was sponsoring it. She had this energy that just drew people in, confident, creative, always had something interesting to say. We started talking about her latest project, some rebranding work for a local restaurant, and I found myself genuinely interested in the creative process. Our first few dates were incredible. She'd show me these design concepts she was working on, explain the psychology behind color choices and typography. I'd never thought about how much strategy goes into making something look effortless. Meanwhile, I was telling her about my work in software sales, the challenge of building relationships with clients, understanding what they actually need versus what they think they need. We just clicked. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I appreciated her artistic perspective on everything. She'd drag me to gallery openings and I'd take her to baseball games. It felt balanced, like we were both bringing something unique to the relationship. The house we bought together was this perfect little place in South Tampa, 3 bedrooms, nice yard, walking distance to some great restaurants. We spent months picking out furniture together, arguing over paint colors in the most pleasant way possible. She wanted this bold accent wall in the living room. I was worried it would be too much. We compromised on something that ended up looking amazing. I remember the day we got the keys, sitting on the floor of our empty living room, drinking champagne from coffee mugs because we hadn't unpacked the wine glasses yet. "This is ours," she said. And the way she looked at me when she said it made me certain I wanted to spend my life with her. The engagement happened about 18 months after we moved in together. I'd been planning it for months, trying to figure out the perfect moment. She was always talking about this little park near downtown where she'd go to sketch when she needed inspiration. One Sunday morning, I suggested we take a walk there. She was sitting on this bench, pointing out architectural details on the buildings across the street, explaining how the different periods of construction created this interesting visual timeline. That's when I knew it was the right moment. When she was just being herself, passionate about something she loved. When I got down on one knee, her first reaction was to laugh. Not in a mean way, but like she couldn't believe it was actually happening. "Are you serious right now?" she asked. Then she saw the ring and her whole expression changed. "Yes," she said before I could even finish asking. "Yes, absolutely yes." We spent the next few months planning this wedding for April. She was in her element, coordinating with vendors, designing invitations, creating this whole aesthetic vision. I was mostly just trying to stay out of her way and pay for whatever she needed. Watching her work was incredible. She had this ability to see how all these little details would come together into something beautiful. But then last Saturday happened. I'm making breakfast, feeling pretty good about life, when Raven sits down at our kitchen table with this serious expression I'd never seen before. "I need to talk to you about something," she says. "I've been thinking about us, about getting married, and I think we should take a break." I figured she was having cold feet about the wedding planning stress. That shit's overwhelming, especially when you're trying to coordinate 50 different vendors and family members. "Okay, what kind of break are we talking about?" Well, Brock reached out to me. Brock, her ex from college. The personal trainer who she always said was too immature, but somehow kept liking all her Instagram posts for the past 3 years. He's been thinking about me, and honestly, I've been thinking about him too. I think before we get married, I should explore these feelings. To be sure, I'm sitting there with my coffee trying to process what I'm hearing. My brain kept trying to find some other interpretation. Some way this conversation wasn't going where it seemed to be going. "You want to take a break from our engagement to sleep with your ex-boyfriend. It's not just about sex, Nash. It's about being completely sure before we make this commitment. Wouldn't you rather I figure this out now than wonder about it later, than have me always wondering what if throughout our marriage?" The thing is, I could see she'd already decided this wasn't a discussion. It was her telling me her plan and expecting me to go along with it. She'd probably been thinking about this for weeks, maybe months. How long of a break are we talking about? Maybe a month, 2 at most, just to see if there's still something there or if it's just nostalgia. I owe it to both of us to be completely certain. And what am I supposed to do during this exploration period? Wait for me, think about us too. Maybe take some time to really consider what marriage means to you. It'll be healthy for both of us to have some space before we commit to forever. Wait for her, like I'm some backup option she can return to after testing out the competition. Like our 3 years together, our house, our engagement, our wedding planning. Like none of that mattered enough to make her sure. That's when something clicked for me. I'd been in a relationship before where I was the safety net. The reliable option someone kept around while they figured out what they really wanted. I swore I'd never do that again. The moment someone asks you to wait while they figure out if they want you, they've already answered the question. No, I said, no what, no breaks. We're either committed to getting married or we're not. If you want to explore other people, then we're done. Her face went white. Nash, that's not fair. I'm trying to be honest with you about my feelings instead of just wondering forever or worse cheating on you. And I'm being honest about mine. I won't be anyone's backup plan. She started crying, saying I was being unreasonable, that she loved me but needed to be sure, that Brock had reached out and it brought up all these old feelings she thought were resolved, that it was better to deal with this now than let it poison our marriage later. But here's what I'd learned from experience. When someone tells you they need to check if the grass is greener elsewhere, they've already checked out of your relationship. The moment she entertained Brock's contact instead of shutting it down immediately, she'd made her choice. I took off my ring and put it on the table. The engagement is over. You can't be serious, dead serious. Call Brock. Tell him he won whatever game he was playing. She kept crying, kept trying to explain that this wasn't what she wanted, that she just needed to be completely sure. But I was done listening to explanations for why our 3 years together wasn't enough to make her certain about me. I spent the rest of that day calling vendors. The photographer, the florist, the caterer, the venue coordinator. Most of them were understanding. Some had cancellation fees, but I didn't care. My brother Sterling came over that evening to help me start the logistics of untangling a shared life. You sure about this? He asked while we were boxing up some of my clothes. She asked me to wait while she sleeps with another guy. What exactly am I supposed to be unsure about? That pretty much settled it for him too. Sterling had never been Raven's biggest fan anyway, not because he disliked her, but because he said she always seemed like she was looking for something better, even when things were good. By Sunday night, our house was on the market and I'd called my company about transferring to another office. The Austin territory had been open for months, and suddenly that seemed like exactly the fresh start I needed. Update 1. So after I posted originally, things moved fast. I got a cash offer on the house within 48 hours from some investors who were flipping properties in our neighborhood, about $15,000 below market value. But I didn't care. I wanted out quickly and cleanly. Raven was staying at her friend Madison's place during all this, still thinking I was just being dramatic and would calm down once I processed what she was asking for. Madison had been texting me trying to play mediator. She really loves you, she kept saying. She's just scared of making the wrong choice. Can't you guys work this out? But that's exactly the problem. If you're scared of choosing me, then don't choose me. I'm not interested in being someone's reluctant decision. The buyers wanted to close by Friday. I said yes immediately. Sterling took 3 days off work to help me pack everything I wanted to keep. We donated most of the furniture, too much hassle to move it cross-country, and honestly, I didn't want reminders of that life anyway. Wednesday night, I'm loading boxes into a storage unit when I get this text from Raven. Can we please talk? I've been thinking about everything and I want to work this out. There's nothing to work out, I replied. You made your choice, I made mine. I haven't done anything with Brock yet. We've just been texting. That actually made it worse somehow. She was willing to blow up our engagement for someone she'd only been texting with. The relationship was so unimportant to her that she'd risk it for what might not even be real. Thursday night, I'm staying in a hotel because all my stuff is packed. When Sterling shows up with a 6-pack and Thai food, you doing okay with all this, he asks. Honestly, better than I expected. I keep waiting to feel devastated, but mostly I just feel relieved. Relieved how? Like I've been holding my breath for months without realizing it. Always wondering if I was doing enough to keep her interested. If I was exciting enough, stable enough, whatever enough, now I don't have to wonder anymore. He nodded like that made perfect sense to him. You know what Mom always said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Friday morning, I signed the papers and officially became homeless by choice. My company had approved the transfer. I had a furnished apartment lined up in Austin, and honestly, I felt lighter than I had in months. Here's where it gets interesting. Raven and Brock had apparently planned to come by the house Friday afternoon. She wanted to show him our life together or some dramatic shit like that. Instead, they found the sold sign in the yard and a moving truck taking away the last of the donated furniture. My phone started blowing up around 6 that night. Panicked voicemails, texts saying she'd made a terrible mistake, begging me to call her back. But I was already 3 hours into the drive to Austin, listening to podcasts and honestly feeling excited about starting over. I thought you were just trying to scare me, one voicemail said. I didn't think you'd actually leave. We can fix this. I choose you, Nash. I choose us. But that's the thing. I didn't want to be chosen by someone who had to think about it. I wanted to be with someone who was sure about me the way I'd been sure about her. Sterling had been fielding calls from Raven's friends and family. Her mom called him crying, asking what happened. When he explained the situation, she went quiet for a long time. She asked him to wait while she her mom finally asked, explored her feelings for her ex-boyfriend. Oh, honey. That boy was right to leave. Even Raven's own mother understood why I'd walked away. That told me everything I needed to know about how reasonable my reaction had been. By Sunday, I was settled in my new apartment in Austin with a view of downtown and plans to start my new territory Monday morning. Sterling sent me updates throughout the weekend. Raven showing up at his place, demanding to know where I'd gone, crying about how she'd never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. She'd made a series of choices that led directly to this outcome, and now she was surprised by the consequences. The best part, I found out through mutual friends that Brock had started backing off the moment he realized she was actually available. Turns out he was more interested in the chase than the catch. Classic move from a guy who gets off on interfering with other people's relationships. 2 weeks in Austin and I was already building a routine. Found a good gym, discovered some great restaurants, started exploring the city. For the first time in months, I wasn't anxious about anything. I was just living. Update 2. Been a crazy few months. Sorry for the delayed update. Work's been incredible. The Austin territory is everything I hoped it would be, and I'm on track for my best sales year ever. The city suits me way better than Tampa ever did. More energy, more opportunities, just feels like a place where things happen. But last Saturday, I'm coming back from a morning trail run when I see someone sitting on the steps outside my apartment complex. It took me a second to realize it was Raven. She'd driven 8 hours from Tampa to find me. I have no idea how she got my address. Probably through mutual connections at work, or maybe she hired someone to track me down. Either way, the dedication to showing up unannounced was both impressive and concerning. "We need to talk," she says, standing up as I approach. She looked terrible, like she hadn't been sleeping well for months. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that needed attention, just generally worn down. "No, we don't, Nash, please. I made a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life." I led her into my apartment because I didn't want to have this conversation where my neighbors could hear it, but I made it clear this wasn't about reconciliation. She looked around my place. "It's smaller than our old house, but has better light, more personality." "This is nice," she said, like she was surprised I could set up a decent living space without her. "What do you want, Raven?" "I want to fix this, I want us back." She launched into this whole explanation about how she'd been scared, how Brock had manipulated her by saying she was settling for me, that she'd always wonder if she was missing out if she didn't explore her feelings. Classic manipulation tactics that worked because she wanted them to work. "It lasted 2 weeks, Nash, 2 weeks, and he was completely done with me. You were right about everything. I know I was right, that's why I left." She tried to explain that she'd realized what she'd lost. That every day since I left had been horrible, that she couldn't eat or sleep or focus on work. Her design business had suffered because she couldn't concentrate on client projects. "I've been seeing a therapist," she said, "working on my fear of commitment, my tendency to self-sabotage when things get too real." "Good for you, that's important work. I want to do it with you. I want us to go to counseling together and rebuild what we had." The thing is, sitting there listening to her, I realized I didn't want what we'd had. What we did was me constantly working to keep her interested while she kept one foot out the door. "That's not love. That's just fear of being alone. I love you," she kept saying. "I've always loved you. I just got confused. You love the security I represent. There's a difference." She offered everything, moving to Austin, signing a prenup, whatever I wanted. She'd give up her business in Tampa, start over here, prove that she was serious about us, but the damage was done. She'd shown me that when things got real, when commitment actually meant something, her first instinct was to run towards someone else. "That's not something therapy fixes, that's someone's character. I'm not the same person who left Tampa," I told her. "And you're not the person I thought I was marrying." We both learned something important about who we really are. The conversation lasted about 2 hours. She cried, she pleaded, she promised things would be different, but I felt nothing except sadness for her. Not anger, not longing, just this deep sadness that she'd thrown away something real for something that was never going to work out. When she finally left, I watched her drive away from my balcony. Part of me expected to feel something, regret, second thoughts, anything. Instead, I just felt grateful that I'd trusted my instincts and gotten out when I did. I found out later through Sterling that she'd been telling people in Tampa that I'd abandoned her, that I'd left without even trying to work things out. But her own family wasn't buying that narrative. Her dad had apparently told her she'd thrown away the best thing that ever happened to her for a fantasy. Her mom had been calling Sterling periodically, apologizing for her daughter's behavior and asking if there was any way to fix things. Nash was perfect for her, she kept saying. She'll never find another man like him, but that's not my problem anymore. Final update, it's been a full year since I left Tampa, and I figured I'd close the loop on this whole story since some people have been asking for updates in my DMs. Life in Austin has been incredible. The sales territory here is more competitive but also more lucrative. I'm making about 30% more than I was in Tampa, and the cost of living is roughly the same. The city just fits my personality better. More outdoor activities, better food scene, people who are ambitious without being cutthroat about it. I met someone about 6 months ago. Her name's Qley. She's a marketing director for a tech startup downtown. We met at this networking event, similar to how I met Raven actually, but the energy was completely different. Where Raven always seemed like she was performing, Qley is just authentically herself in every situation. She makes decisions and sticks with them. She doesn't need to explore her options because she's confident in her choices. When I told her about the Raven situation, her response was simple. Thank God she did you that favor. The difference is night and day. Being with someone who actually wants to be with you without hesitation or conditions changes everything about how you experience relationships. I'm not constantly wondering if I'm doing enough to keep her interested because she chose me deliberately and continues choosing me every day. Raven reached out one more time on what would have been our wedding date, just a text saying she still thought about me every day and hoped I was happy. I blocked her number after that. Some conversations don't need to happen. Through Sterling and a few mutual connections, I've heard pieces of what her life looks like now. The pattern I predicted basically played out exactly. She's had several relationships since Brock, but none of them last more than a few months. Word gets around in Tampa's social circles, and when guys hear she left her fiancé for her ex, they see red flags. Her design business struggled for a while after I left. Losing focus on client work during the whole drama cost her a few big accounts. She ended up having to take a part-time job at an agency to make ends meet while rebuilding her freelance portfolio. Her family relationships are still strained. Her parents were planning to contribute significantly to our wedding and were pretty upset about losing that money. More importantly, they'd grown attached to me over the 3 years we were together, and having to explain to their friends why their daughter called off her engagement was embarrassing for them. Her dad had apparently been looking forward to having a son-in-law who was stable and successful. She had the perfect setup, he told Sterling during one of their occasional conversations. House, good man, future planned out. And she threw it away for what? Some guy from her past who didn't even want her. Professionally, the story followed her around Tampa's relatively small professional community. She lost a few clients when word spread about what happened. People in relationship-based businesses don't love working with someone whose personal life involves that level of poor judgment. But the most telling part is her dating life. She's been trying to find something serious for over a year now, but she's developed this reputation as someone who doesn't know what she wants. The guys she dates hear about the engagement story and decide they don't want to invest in someone who might suddenly decide to explore her feelings with an ex. Multiple friends have told Sterling that guys in their circle refer to her as that girl who left her fiancé for her ex. That's not a reputation you recover from easily in a place like Tampa where everyone knows everyone. Meanwhile, I got promoted 6 months ago to Regional Sales Director covering Texas and Louisiana. Claire and I are talking about moving in together next month. Her lease is up and my apartment lease runs through the summer, so the timing works out perfectly. What I learned from the whole experience is that when someone asks you to wait while they figure out if they want you, they've already given you your answer. The right person doesn't need to explore alternatives to be sure about you. I think about my dad sometimes, how he always told me that actions reveal priorities better than words ever could. Raven's actions told me that when faced with a choice between our future and immediate gratification, she picked gratification without much consideration for the consequences. That's not someone you build a life with. That's someone who will always be looking for the next exciting thing, the next possibility that might be better than what they have.